Hello, in this lesson we're going to look at the structure of a database. As mentioned before, a database consists of various objects, tables, queries, forms and reports. We're going to focus on the table now. So let's open up a database and open up one of our tables. This table is called My Contacts. When you open the table, it opens in something called the data sheet view. Here you will see all the information that has been entered into your database. Let's have a look at the screen. Each row represents a record. So in this particular database, we have 6 records. Each column represents a specific field. If I wanted to make changes to my table, I would need to go to my design view. To do this, select the design view in the top left corner of your screen. Here you will notice that there's a little golden key next to the ID contact field. This indicates that this particular field has been selected as the primary key. Now, a primary key is used to uniquely identify each record. Something like an ID number would work, or perhaps a student number, or an ISBN number for a book. It's important to have a field that uniquely identifies a record. Examples where this would apply is where you would have an election. If you don't have a field that uniquely identifies a person like an ID number, then there could be a mix-up and people will vote more than once or perhaps not be able to vote at all. To set the primary key, you can right-click next to the field and then select primary key. And obviously, if you want to deselect it, right-click and deselect primary key. To create a table, you can select your Create tab, and I prefer using the table design as it automatically opens in design view for me. Let's do that now. I'm going to select table design. So now I'm going to add a field name to my new table. I'm going to add the field date last visited because I want to use this table to record when last I visited my friend. I'm going to select a data type. In this case, the most appropriate one would be the date time. And then I'm also going to add a field called activity, as I want to log what I actually did with my friend. Did we go to the movies? Did we go for dinner? And to do this, I'm going to add memo for longer text, so I could write a whole paragraph if I wanted to. To save your table, you can right-click on the Table tab and select Save. It's always a good idea to use the prefix TBL to identify the table objects. I'm going to save this as Table Visit. If I select OK, I'm going to see an error message where the computer is warning me that I don't have a primary key defined. Remember that we said that we need a primary key in each table to uniquely identify each record. If you can't think of anything, then you can allow Access to enter a primary key for you. And that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm just going to select Yes. And we'll automatically add a field called ID as the primary key. I'm going to close this table now. Save all my changes. As we said in a previous lesson as well, the form object is used to enter data into a table. To create a form, select Create. Let's do that now. Create. And then here you can use the form wizard to help you through the process of creating a form. Firstly, you'll need to choose the table or query that you would like to base your form on. And then you can decide which fields you want to display in your or on your form. I'm going to select all the fields, then go to the next screen. Here it's going to ask you which layout you would prefer, and you can play around with these, but columnar usually works well. Here you can add an appropriate title to your form. In this case, I'm going to make it My Contacts. And finish. And this will automatically open in Form View now. In Form View, you can view the data that has already been entered into your database. Let's have a look at how many records we have in this database. If you look at the bottom of the screen, it says record 1 of 6. and you can use these navigational buttons to navigate through your different records. A form can also be used to add more information to your table. So let's add another record by selecting the little arrow or navigation button with the little star. And let's add Jonathan. Let's give him a surname. Let's try to give him a surname. Let's put in a cell phone number for him. And let's also invite him to our charity event. Right, if we now go back to record 6, you'll see that we now have 6 of 7 records. Let's close our form and open our table again. You'll notice that the information that you entered using the form is now visible in your table as well. You can also delete records directly from your table. So if we didn't want to have Jonathan Goeieman in here anymore, we can right-click on the record and then select Delete Record. You'll find a warning that says that, or asks you whether you are sure you want to delete this record, as this would be permanent and you cannot undo this action. So just say yes. And also note that the primary key that was used, which was a number 7, won't be used in the database again, as it was set as a primary key, so it was unique to that record. Right, we're now going to look at editing what the table looks like on our screen. The first thing that you can do is you can change the font, and you'll do that using the Home tab. The text formatting is right on the right-hand side of your screen, and you can change it to any font you like. So I'm going to select Arial. Just note that when you select one row or one column and you make a change, everything else is changed as well. So unfortunately, you can't customize each column. Whatever change is made in one column carries through to the rest of the table as well. You can also decide on what color you would like for your different records. You'll see at the moment it's alternating between white and a light gray, and that's just because it's easier to read, but you can set those colors as well. So you can go to your button on your Home tab and select a different color, for instance. Let's make it blue. And let's change it back to gray because that's definitely easier to read. You can make all the rows the same color, but it's obviously better to have alternating colors to make it easier to read. You can apply character styles like bold, italic, and underline, just like you would in a word processor as well. The other thing that you can do in your form and your table view is that you can change the width of the columns. You can either just click and drag to make it wider or narrower, or you can right-click and select field width and type in how wide the field or column is supposed to be. Okay, can we just quickly stop there? If you wanted to, you could also hide a specific column. For instance, the column that has been selected as your primary key, because you don't want people to fiddle with it. So you can hide the field and it won't be visible in your datasheet view. Another setting that you can change are the grid lines. So you can actually select not to see any grid lines on your screen. So it just all comes down to aesthetics and what works for you, but more importantly, really, what makes it easier to read on screen. We're now going to move over to OpenOffice Base. So let's close Office, save all our changes, and move to our OpenOffice database. For instance, the column that has been selected as your primary key, because you don't want people to fiddle with it. So you can hide the field and it won't be visible in your datasheet view. Another setting that you can change are the grid lines. So you can actually select not to see any grid lines on your screen. We're now going to look at tables in OpenOffice. When you access your table design view, it works slightly different than it does in OpenOffice, so watch closely. I'm going to double click on my table name to open up the table. And here you'll see all the records in my table. In this table, I only have 2 records. If you wanted to delete an entry, you can right-click and select Delete Rows. Let's go back to our main view. And I now want to change to my Edit mode, which is like Design View in Office 2010. To do this, you're going to right-click on the table and select Edit. This will open the Edit mode. Here you'll have all your field names as well as your different field types. Also note here that you can make changes to the field properties just like you would in Access 2010. To create a table, we're going to close the current one, and you'll see that here at the top you've got 2 options. You can create the table in Design View or you can use a wizard. Now we're going to use the wizard to create this table. So double click on Use Wizard to create table. And you'll see here that they've got some preloaded information that you can use. You can either select a category business or personal. And let's use the sample tables for addresses. So we're going to add the address, we're going to add the city and a country. Go to your next screen. Here you can select your fields and you can change some of the information like the field type as well as the length and some other field properties. I'm not going to make any changes now. You can have the computer create a primary key for you. You can give it your table a name and then select Finish. Right, then it will open in Datasheet view again where you can enter information. Let's also have a look at how to create a form. We're going to use a wizard again because it makes it so much easier to set all the settings. So I'm going to use the wizard to create the form. And I'm going to base the form on my table contacts. I'm going to let's add the name, the surname and the mobile number. On the next screen you'll have the option to add a subform if you wanted to. We're not going to do that now. And then we're going to look at the arrangement of the controls. So the best one is usually columnar. That's what I'm going to select now. We're not going to select or change any of the data entry modes now. And now we're going to select a color. I'm going to select the gray, or let's make it the light gray. And then I'm going to give my form a name. Right, so this will open up your form, and this also looks very similar to Access 2010. Here you'll see at the bottom it shows we've got record 1 of 2 on our screen at the moment. You can navigate through the different records. You can opt to select or insert a new record using the form. And then OpenOffice also has the option to delete the current record on your screen. Also keep in mind that in OpenOffice, your form is really important, as this is also where you would set up something like a list box. And you would do that by inserting a text box and then changing it to a list box and then adding all your different elements. So just remember that some of the settings will need to be done in form view and not in the table itself. Right, that concludes our lesson on database structures.